We're testing.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and test audio and just verify that all the things are working.
Go. Yeah.
Wow, those are some pretty lines. I like those lines.
So which one's mine? I'm 2. Or am I 1?
You're 1.
I'm 1.
It sounds like you're 1.
Loneliest number.
Wow. Somehow I'm sounding a bit louder than you today. That's interesting.
I think it goes back and forth between who's talking.
Oh, so it does what OBS does in Discord, where it'll slightly fade the person down?
No, I think we're just not assholes. We don't try to talk over each other a lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's a thing that happens.
That is a thing that, I try not to interrupt people. I really don't. And I think it's showing, obviously, in the audio.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well,
are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, excellent.
You know this is not getting cut out, right? We never cut this part out.
I think you should put like radio tuner static over it as it comes in.
that nasty like white noise.
I want to make an intro for the channel.
Okay.
I think that'd be good.
I mean, we do need one at this point. Because
like I made the one for my anime podcast, so I can probably make this one too.
Sounds like a plan. I mean, at this current point in time, because I haven't told you exactly what we're sitting at views wise.
I try not to look at that so I can be impressed on not camera.
Yeah, I mean, how else would they know you're shocked and awed if they can't hear your voice?
Yeah, it's not like I'm exclusively known for fucking lying all the time.
I mean, that is a thing. So, anywho. Welcome to Bound by the Scene. Again, we're finally back in a normal recording aspect of our lives.
Yeah. There was an interview I didn't get invited to.
There was an interview that you didn't get invited to, but that's because you were preoccupado. And the way that one's going to be structured is that you or I, if I can't make it to anything...
Yeah.
And if there's like a little bit of a gap in between recording sessions,
we have some filler space. Because I had depression.
Exactly, and I didn't want to make you do anything that you weren't up to doing. So,
yeah.
But that honestly took.
Well, we have to make it official.
Oh yeah, hold up, wait.
Okay, now the episode started.
That was crispy.
Suck.
You've been missed, that's for sure. So
fucking aim better.
Oh boy.
Okay, so I have a question unrelated to our topic. I don't know what our topic is. Have you ever oiled your rope after it has been on somebody?
Yeah.
Because it's a thing I want to try.
I mean,
I want to like tie somebody up and then this has mostly not happened because I am poor. Okay. And just dump whatever treatment oil I want on the rope onto the person.
I mean, you would have to... The logistics of that sound really nice. The only issue that I would see with that is once you get it off and it's like dripping with oil.
Yeah.
You'd have to literally keep it taut until it semi-pseudo dries. But you can also ruin the rope like that.
Oh, by keeping it too taut or what?
Keeping it too wet. Okay. Because the fibers will start breaking down.
Okay.
And that causes a lot of issues as far as like that's concerned. Because you can get the rope wet. You can douse the person in water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fibers will start coming loose. And that's why you keep it taut.
Okay.
So you can do it with water, or I prefer you do it with water rather than oil.
Uh-huh.
But that's just my personal opinion.
I just like putting oil on people. I recently bought a 3-pound container of manteca and a gallon of extra virgin olive oil. So I'd be thinking
those
about
are
things.
Food grade items, not fiber grade. I don't even industrial grade items, I guess would be the different term for that one.
Right.
I can see that going very bad. Your rope's going to smell very musky, and then.
Well, I'm not going to use those, but like I want people to know that I'm very enthusiastic about fat-based product.
I can see this going one of two ways: horribly wrong,
right,
or awkwardly hot. I'm going to leave it towards the latter.
I don't feel like I need to choose.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't need to choose.
Uh-huh.
The rope will choose for you.
Right.
So there's that.
You know what else I want to do? I want to make a kink tarot deck.
Okay.
Really badly.
Can the hangman just be me, but hanging from my neck with a bundle of rope at my crotch?
Well, like I wanted to see about us having like a channel, like a channel themed tarot deck with like a hanged man and both of our icons on it.
I can fuck with that. I can definitely fuck with that.
But who knows? I'm just trying to monetize my hobbies.
I mean, do what you can. I highly recommend it.
Picture the scene. It's a takedown scene where I string you up and then tell you why the spirits hate you.
No, picture this scene. We do have a rough body scene. I take out your credit card and say, you're going to Venmo me for this scene.
Are you going to Findem somebody?
I'm going to Findem somebody real hard. Like that. I think that's my new kink. I think I just found my new kink. Where
Imagine,
I'm the Findom.
Right? That I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor.
I already don't like where this is going, but continue.
The Panic at the Disco.
Oh, God. This has turned into a wonderful shit show.
What are we talking about today?
Before we discuss what we're discussing today...
We need a pre-discussion before our credit.
We need a pre-discussion,
right.
but mainly I wanted to get rid of some of the housekeeping because we've just hit over 16K views.
Wow.
Pornhub.
16K?
Well, 1,600.
Okay, those are very different.
Yeah, no, I wish I should have remembered that there was a dot between 1 and 6, so it's 1.6K.
Right.
Views.
A dot. You're like very not American right now.
I'm very not. The ethnic group in me is
screams in metric.
Screams in other countries. Yeah, no, we've hit.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if that was like an American thing or like a North America thing. Like, does Canada also use the comma instead of the period and to designate like the thousands place?
I know most of Europe does it.
Oh yeah, Europe absolutely does it.
I'm not entirely sure about Canada. If we have Canadian audience, please just let us know in the comments.
Because most of the people that I know that know a lot about Mexican culture are Mexican American people that like grew up here but have a lot of like Mexican relatives. So like a lot of these things don't come up in those conversations.
They're usually not. They're usually just kind of taught in the wayside, and then you end up figuring it out later. But yeah, that's kind of the housekeeping. Thank you guys for all the wonderful views. Thank you guys for all the support. Even the new subscribers.
They're better than regular views because I know you're looking really hard.
Extremely hard. And again, the interview will be up on Wednesday on YouTube because it's already up on Pornhub. And that's pretty much about it. So the discussion today is vetting. I know we touched on it on the second episode about playing in the scene and all that. We kind of got
vetting. Okay.
Yeah, vetting. We've touched on it a little bit here and there, and we've never really sat down and actually gone through the reasons and importance of actually discussing it, like actually having that conversation on why it is important to like know who the hell you're playing. And I think that's what we should be going on. I think that's something that I actually discussed. That was actually suggested to me by one of our viewers. You know who you are. Comment on that one, because I know you're going to be listening to it, you dirty man. So, vetting. What are your thoughts on the actual subject? Are you familiar with it? Familiar with the concept?
No, I wanted to make a joke about taking your dog girl to the clinic, but I couldn't find a way to make it succinct. But I want y'all to know that it's there. Comment your best version of that joke.
I already have it in my head. I'm not.
You can go comment it too.
I'm not going to do that at all. Not a chance in hell.
Okay. We hang out on Pornhub, homie. Like, where do you get? Never mind.
I have a lot.
I remembered not to underestimate you. So, as far as I understand it, vetting is the process of choosing who you are willing to have around you and your kink microculture. So, like, the group of people who meet semi-regularly and have your own, like, little in-group, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah. That's one way of interpreting it.
I haven't developed a super huge group like that in many years. I haven't had a kink group. I tend to meet with a lot of individuals and have individual scenes, but as far as like a large group, I haven't had that since it was the drinky times.
I get that. I totally get that. So vetting can be done in obviously a variety of different ways. You can do online-based vetting for an individual that you want to play. You can do group-based vetting for groups or interpersonal relationships that you are trying to be involved in that are a lot more than just a person-by-person basis. Then there's also venue vetting. Then there's also a whole bunch of that just starts trickling up. Right. Then you get to convention vetting. Then you get to performer vetting. There's a lot of different ways to do that, but we're going to kind of go... We're just going to fucking go from the top down.
So, I see... I think we should do the opposite, because I think I think starting at a personal level is where most people will be familiar, and as we get to the higher levels, we can talk about like how when you break that chain, you can run into problems.
Yeah, all right, that sounds a lot better than what I was doing, because I was thinking about trickle down economics at that point.
Yeah, because that works.
Because it doesn't work. That's the whole point. Like, sometimes even vetting doesn't work, and the importance of vetting is to basically it's the whole keeping yourself safe in a enclosed space or in a space where you're around someone else,
right?
Or making sure that the event that you're going to is not participating in any like highly illicit things. And then even conventions and vetting performers is like, are they held accountable to the same standards that a Joe Schmo like me or you are going to be held accountable for?
So, I see two, just as we're talking about this, I see two definite dimensions that come into play when we're talking about vetting. There's personal experience and there's reputation. So I think those are very good ways to frame what we're going to be talking about.
Makes perfect sense to me. So in my dated, I guess, BC, before COVID, I'm going to start using that. That one's a nice little fun one. So before COVID times, vetting was a little bit of an interesting concept, because there's many different ways that we vet in country versus out of country. Like, well, Eastern and Western, I'm going to keep using that because I'm a little bit more prevalent in, like, I've had a little bit more experience as far as being vetted in Japan versus being vetted in, like, say, Europe. Whereas I imagine Europe is somewhat similar to the US or Canada.
I have no clue.
I'm just guessing.
I've never played in Europe, so
neither have I. I look forward to doing that one of these days. I know.
Let me, based on what you've told me, vetting in the East is very meritocratic and like on the spot performance based.
Yeah, it's a one strike policy.
Yeah, verified personal experience, I suppose. Like you have to take a test.
Almost like a test. I know Mistress Smile when I was over there in her dungeon. The only reason I'm saying her name is because she's actually out in the open and she openly says and promotes her stuff. I
wonder if she listens.
I wish she did. I would be very happy if she did. The way she vetted me was I was one of the first people to go into her dungeon, and she asked me if I wanted to play that night, if I was looking forward to playing. I was like, well, it's not on my to-do list, but I would not be offended if I was to play. She's like, okay, cool. Well, what's your experience? And she started like fishing information.
So your answer was, please, mommy.
My eventual answer was, please, mommy, but that comes later.
Right.
So we started having a normal conversation. I got my beverage for the evening, and she's like, okay, cool. Well, the way that you're going to do, if you decide to play, you have one chance. You're going to tie one of the newbies that are here because you're saying that you have experience. If you hurt one of them, you're not allowed here anymore.
Right.
And that puts a fire under my ass, actually perform well and not be a piece of shit. Because the way she has her setup is that you can play one of her slaves, her personal slaves. You'll pay for that, but you can. And she wants to verify that if you do decide to play with one of her toys,
you're not going to hurt them.
You're not going to hurt them, break them, or do anything stupid.
So that's interesting. So we're already bringing like the thing that interests me is the different contexts for vetting, because that context comes with a particular social sphere, and it comes with a set of rules. There's a ritual to being allowed to play in this space, and it also doubles as vetting. But you once helped run an organization roundabout, correct?
Correct. I did own a studio where we did have to do some of our own vetting.
Yeah. How did that work?
So the way we did it, if we were going to get a performer in, is that we would contact the performer. We'd contact the person that was going to be doing any of the teaching, and if and usually this person we've had prior experience with, either we've taken their class beforehand or we've met them at a convention and we exchange pleasantries. Pardon me. So, and then we kind of see if anything had happened in their performing life recently, like if there was a consent violation, if there was anything that we needed to kind of like ask the bottoms that they were bringing in, if they were bringing them in, because sometimes they couldn't afford to bring in a bottom with them, so we'd have to supply one, and then we'd vet the bottom, and the bottom would meet the performer, and then they would exchange pleasantries and exchange like vetting and rules that would limits to what was going to happen and what wasn't going to happen, and especially when it's a rope intensive where it's a 3-day long, your body's going to be hurting after all of this stress. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that we did it, which it works, and then sometimes it doesn't, because after you find out after the fact that this performer or someone else did some nefarious things with other people going
So how
forward.
do you decide who in your organization is allowed to vet and who isn't? And that's kind of the other dimension, because like if you have the studio and that studio is doing good work, then they're going to have a reputation, and that gives you social power. It does. Deciding who does and does not get to vet people and carry the weight of your endorsement, how do you decide that? Are you happy with the way it was decided?
So
what would you change? That kind of stuff.
Well, typically the way we did is that we as the organization, it was 4 figureheads at that time, and we would sit down and we'd discuss this over drinks usually, or dinner, one of the two, and we'd be like, okay, so who do we want to teach? And we start throwing names out, and usually we'd find and hone in on one, and then usually at the time there was a specific person that had their name on the lease. And we left that decision up to them. Or if there was something that we wanted to bring in, then the decision would be left to us. So, then the responsibility falls on that person to dot all their I's, cross all their T's, as well as minding their P's and Q's, and also trying to reach out to people. Because yes, while the organization does have power, you still have to have a human element in discussing, well, maybe there's a little bit more to this that we're trying to figure out. And then we just go from there.
Okay.
So that's how we did it. Interpersonal relationships are a little bit more strict, I would say, because sometimes the performer has a reputation. Right. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that reputation to be like, okay, well, then you're throwing it into a business standpoint. Well, that reputation is going to bring in people and bringing in people is going to bring more money, so that way we can pay the performer. Exactly. And still keep the lights on. And some of that does remove the human element into it. And that's why I think interpersonal relationships, like one-on-one vetting, is a lot more difficult. Okay. Because I'll use me for an example. Not even like 2-3 weeks ago, I had someone get into my DMs and was like, hey, I'd like to have a scene with you. Correct. I'd like to play with you, and I'd like to form a friendship-based rope relationship where we're tying as friends and all that fun jazz. I'm like, all right, fine. Here's the first thing. I need personal references. I don't know you. I've never met you. I need to know if you're someone safe to play with. Right. And usually I ask for 1 or 2. Right. And if they give me 1 or 2, I respond with 1 or 2 as well. That way, and I usually send them people that I've worked with that are going to be less objective, are going to be far more objective than they're going to be like fawning over me. Yeah, because it's effectively a hiring process. Exactly. Like, if this stuff can seriously hurt you, I think the amount of work that goes into hiring somebody is a reasonable thing to ask for at the level that you are used to performing at. Exactly. And I don't want to intimidate people out of the entire process because they're like, oh, fuck, I have to be a manager now. Kind of do a little bit, but like, there's different levels, I think. There is, and it just varies. Like, if the way that this person wanted to play with me is like, okay, well, they wanted a very structured, they wanted photos, they wanted a friendship. It's like, okay, cool. I'll send them one of the models that has had a professional work experience with me. And that should do it.
Right.
It's up to them at that point to either trust what I'm saying or follow up with that. And I would hope that they would follow up with it.
Right.
As opposed to just trusting my word.
Right.
One of the... I'm a terrible person, so I'd rather them do
well,
something.
I'm kind of like... maybe it's my experience with the research, but like peer review is my bread and butter for everything. Like we were having this... I was having an existentialist discussion with a friend of mine on Discord. And they were like, we can never truly know what is real. And I'm like, that's absolutely true. That's why we have peer review.
Yeah.
If we can't know what's real, we should at least know what we can all agree on.
That is fair. But that also goes into a whole different portion of the conversation. It's like, well, we've all agreed that safe and consensual risk awareness, consensual kink, and prick, personal responsibility, informed consensual kink, are the basis for all of kink. And it was put in a really interesting way for me, is that what your personal responsibility is not going to be mine.
Exactly, yeah.
And you start getting into these weird convoluted discussions and everything has a gray area. It's like, whoa, what somebody is safe is not going to be my safe.
Yeah, that's why you have to yell it from the treetops.
Exactly. And I prefer the whole yelling it from the treetops aspect as opposed to having to find out the hard way.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of easy for people like you and I who don't know how to shut the fuck up.
That is fair.
That enjoyed it so much we had to put it on the internet. That may be different for, let's say you've got a sub that is very uncomfortable with talking. They arrange everything through text message because they want the point of this scene to not, they don't have to communicate vocally. I've met people like that before.
I've met maybe one. And that was about it. But I see where you're going. Go ahead.
And like, they may be less equipped to vocalize what they want in person if the thing that they're going for is being able to do this without having to deal with the annoyance that is tense personal speech. And like the idea we're selling is a much harder sell to a person like that.
Oh, it's a harder sell to someone that's even extroverted. I'd even say, because we go from our vanilla life into our kink life, and the transition from vanilla to kink is such a jarring experience because now you're expected to tell people what you want, as opposed to people finding out just by happenstance. It's like there's this weird thing with vanilla relationships where the idea of the mystery behind the person is what draws you to them, and then as you progress further into the relationship, you find out more and more and more. Whereas with kink, it's like, all right, here's all of my cards right now. This is what you're getting, and this is what I can offer. And usually that is something that we're not really equipped to deal with when we're just getting involved. So I can see that as a really difficult transition. And even people that are in the scene for years still have issues doing this vetting process because we get complacent more times than not. And it's like, well, yeah, no, you're someone new, you're someone fun, I can show you the ropes. And in reality, you don't realize that the person actually isn't brand new and has had some baggage that you are not equipped to deal with. And that's why we do this vetting process. It, as far as like one-to-one conversations are concerned, because you never really know what I am going to be capable of. Right. And you never really know what the person's going to be capable of. And this goes into a really interesting segue as far as like groups. Because we were kind of already talking about group dynamics with the setting that you entered. Even though it was spearheaded by one person, that's a group dynamic. Yep. And the studio you ran was definitely a group dynamic. So do we want to move up towards like convention spaces, or do we want to move down to the personal level? We went from personal level because we kind of like touched base on each of them, and then we started at the bottom. Yeah. So we're going to go up to groups because that goes into this the cliquey aspect of it, because you have a harder time with finding out exactly what the group is wanting to do,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're all going to be on the same page,
Right.
especially when someone new is introduced into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because packs,
Mm-hmm.
leather houses,
Right.
all of these like structures that do make up some of the kink friends, like even polycues and poly households. You have like all of these groups have different vetting processes.
Mm-hmm.
Like leather communities will actually take you in as an apprentice,
Right.
and packs will. I can't remember what the hell packs do. I don't really think they have any structure to it because they're.
Well, I think it's what's it called? It's monolithic based on whoever the pack leader is.
Yeah,
Because I think that's the romanticization of packs.
Yeah,
They've got that alpha thing that like doesn't actually exist out in the wild.
yeah. It's not even. It's not even accurate as far as like ecology is concerned.
Don't tell them that. I don't want to hear that.
Shh. We'll just put that one under the rug and save that one for later.
And I'm not trying to be mean to those people either. It's like the kind of person that like it's like sitting down to watch a Hong Kong kung fu wire film movie with an actual martial arts master, and they're telling you everything that's wrong. If you didn't ask for that, you're like,
Thanks for ruining it. Thanks for ruining
the entire point of this, it's a romanticization of a dying art that got rejuvenated, and it's kind of a big part of national identity. I don't need you to take it apart, please.
That is fair. And we'll preface this: we're not hating on a specific group or anything. It's just like that. Those are this is just how our minds work as far as like processing stuff for ourselves. And like even rope people have a really weird way of vetting. It's like, okay, cool, we'll demo first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll put you in my rope, like on the ground first in front of a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
To see how you react. If we've already gone through this, like especially in a pick up and play scenario where everything is right here in front of you.
Yeah.
And
I think like a good amount of rope is exhibitionary. Not necessarily in like the process, but in the kind of people that it attracts.
Yeah, you have to be slightly. You have to be a slight exhibitionist to even like want to be tied in a space in front of a whole bunch of people, and that's kind of how it transitions. Is like you go from private bedroom stuff to okay, we're in a dungeon and we're in our little corner, to now we're doing something a little bit more like okay, we're out in the open, quote unquote, not actually out in the open, because we don't need anybody to get a charge.
Yeah.
And it changes over the course of time as far as like how we will process, because right now the way we vet now is not the way we were vetting back like a few years ago. And then it just kind of changes, and if it evolves into something a little bit different, especially in a technological space, because now I can grab someone's user profile, skim through it, go all the way down through FetLife and see exactly every interaction that they've had with people and see exactly if they're worth messing with. And then you can do that with groups too. Like if you go into certain groups in FetLife, you can kind of see the conversation if from the beginning of when the group started, if it was very educational and just devolved into something like just highly sexual. And it just changes over the course. Now, groups in person are a little bit different because everybody starts becoming friendly. And that's where a little bit of the issue lies, is that again, it comes back to complacency. Like, what is good for the goose is good for the gander kind of thing. So, I don't know. I think thankfully the groups that I've been a part of haven't been shady or nefarious. I think that's just a luck thing.
How do you vet a group? Like, let's say you own a venue and there is a new group that comes in and they're looking for a new hangout spot. How do you decide whether or not these are bad people who need to leave or people that are welcome here?
You let them have that one. It's a trial. It's like the same. It's the way that the dungeon did it with me. You have one chance. You can have your night. Here's what it's going to cost. As far as like having a venue, here's what it'll cost to get everybody in. It's going to cost $5 a head or whatnot, and just you lay it down a list of ground rules, and then as the people come in, we would have someone stay there from one of the owners stay there because they were the ones in contact with the group prior, and then go through that vetting process where you see how they interact with everybody, you see all the inner workings of that group, and then you make a conscious decision after the evening is out. And if you wanted to take it a step further, you can actually go to every individual's FetLife profile, because usually they won't give you their actual name.
Of course.
So you can just
Nor should they.
Nor should they, because anonymity is a wonderful thing. And just go from there. Now, we never really did it that extreme. We just kind of saw what we did, and then usually they're put on a probationary period. Like, okay, well, now you have the spot if they minded all their P's and their Q's, and go from there. And that probationary period is usually what helps.
Okay, let's talk about, I've got 2 more segments that I really want to cover for this, right?
Sweet.
I want to talk about conventions and big name people, and I want to have a sizably chunky advice corner.
Okay.
So I have not been to any major exclusively kink conventions before. I've been to a lot of kink events through a lot of the nerd conventions that I'm a part of the space of, but like as far as like this is like a bondage expo, I have not had the opportunity to go to any one of those because it's kind of hard to bring yourself there if you don't have a performance skill to exhibit.
That's fair. So the only real big...
For me.
That's fair. The only real big name conventions that I can list at the top of my head, one of them is Dark Odyssey. They have a summer and a winter camp.
Okay.
Also, there is Bondage Expo in Dallas. Another great convention. There's also Ropecraft, which is a pseudo-traveling convention. They travel between Chicago and Austin, Texas.
Wow, I love both of those places.
I don't like Austin that much, but I'll take Chicago any day. And I think there is there's a couple. Oh yeah, there's Beachbind in Jamaica. It's another one, if you have the money for that one. There's NARX, North American Rope International Exchange, and then there's EURIX, which is the European International Rope Exchange. I hope I'm saying that accurately. Those are the ones that I can say at the top of my head that I've known about and have gone to. So typically the convention has its own vetting process. Yes, everybody can buy a ticket. Everybody can go, everybody can do all the things. Now, as far as whether or not the convention is on the up and up, you look at the rules. A lot of the times, their rules are kind of blatant and obvious. If you're drinking, no fucking. If you're fucking, no drinking. Just to eliminate one of those rules.
Right.
And there's also housekeeping matters. Like if they're operating out of a hotel, you have to...
Maybe don't trash the fucking hotel.
Yeah, don't trash the hotel.
Look at you, Akon.
Oofed. Shots fired. Or are they having it like an outdoors like camping venture like Dark Odyssey? Dark Odyssey does like they're strictly like outdoors, and you can buy, and it's camping space, so you can get away with a lot more there, as opposed to having the rules of the hotel. Right. Mind you, it's camping grounds, so don't trash the camping grounds. Now the vetting there is a little bit lax as far as like a convention, because conventions have to have such a high monetary backing that in order for it to be considered safe, right, you're not going to have a convention that's hosting anywhere between 300 to 500 to 600 people, where it's small in the scope of like anime conventions or sci-fi conventions or anything like that. It's small, yes, but at the same time, kinksters aren't that really big. Right. We're not very prominent. There's a lot more cultural relevance to us now, but we're not that popular. Right, right. So from there, you go, okay, well, how long has this convention been running? Right. If I recall correctly, BED has been going on for almost 6 years now, which is great. It's fantastic. Ropecraft has been going on for, I think, 4 years. Not bad. Cool. ShibariCon, which is Ropecraft's predecessor, was going on for a lot longer than that. Then they shut down. For what reason, I can't remember. Dark Odyssey has been going on for a long time too. Beachbind in Jamaica has been going on for a good while. So those are good starting points as far as like to figure out if a convention's worth your time and if it's safe to go. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize this about conventions, but they have to be open with whoever is on their committee. So you can research those people. Like it'll take you like 20 minutes on a Thursday afternoon to look up who is running this and who's in charge of this. But the big thing that worried about is the wrong term, but a concern that I have is headliners may be able to get away with a lot more stuff because they're headliners. And that's a thing I worry about. Are you likely, like, even if a person doesn't really pass your vetting process, it'd be pretty hard to turn down a scene with the person that's headlining the convention, right?
Arguably. It depends. I've seen it go one of two different ways. The person's either way too busy to even bother with you.
Right.
Because they have a whole laundry list of people that have already signed up for private classes, private photo shoots. So some of these headliners also like have their own thing going. Because I know at one of the conventions, if you're talking about Hajime Kanoko, like he's been to bed, and there is no way you're tying with him.
Yeah,
because he has private classes, he has book signing, he has to sell some of his merch.
Well, that's kind of like the thing that I'm talking about. Like, let's say you're hanging out and you know that Kanoko is going to be here and you're not going to see him. And let's say that you're a sub that's there to get tied. If he's like, I like you, I want to tie with you. Like, the pressure there, knowing that you just got to the front of the line. Obviously, I would never accuse Kanoko of doing anything bad, but like somebody with that amount of clout, it would be very hard to tell them no with the amount of pressure that they can exert socially.
The only thing I'm going to push back on is if the person is highly brand new, they would not know who he is.
Right.
And that's the thing that we have to remember is that we know these names.
Yes. Right.
A brand new sub that just went to Bondage Expo Dallas because she was told that this is a place where she can get ropey time, or you wouldn't know who these people are. Like, you wouldn't.
Well, you're going to see their faces on the flyers. Yeah.
Yeah, but most of the time they're like, okay.
Will they remember?
Will they remember it?
Yeah.
Because what they remember is they remember buying a ticket, they remember the hotel, they remember purchasing the hotel, and now they have to find roommates. And most of the time they're going with other like very new-ish people, unless they already have a person in the community.
So you're saying those people would be that might be a problem, because even if they are insulated by their clique, they're also super easily influenced if they're that new, which is the thing I worry about.
That is a very valid concern. And as far as like the main headline presenter now, there's other people that are teaching. Sure, yeah, that's easy. It's easy to kind of go. They went to a class. They like the teacher, and they are now like, well, can we set up a scene? And then it can devolve into something a little bit more nefarious,
right?
And that is something to worry about. Spooky fish. With that, it's more along the lines of, it can happen. I've played with somebody, with myself, like it's a pick up and play. Like someone needed a bottom. I was like, you know what? I'm in a bottom space tonight.
Yeah.
And I got degraded in a rope. My first convention, I was like,
nice. Was it nice?
It was great.
Okay.
It was way too much fun. Something about having like rope pulled through one of my piercings and wrapped around my face, and then getting stomped on by a gorgeous woman was
a little bit of the fear, though.
But again, that was kind of the selling point. I've never played with this person before. They are a presenter. Okay, yeah, I can get away with it, and that is not a really good mindset to have.
So you're saying there was a risk there that you should have known that you were taking.
And I knew the risk I was taking because they're human. We all have a human element in us. It's like sometimes we think to ourselves silently, like, what could I get away with? And again, that's complacency talking, because you're like, well, I can do these things that I'm not skilled to do, and you see that a lot. So my honest opinion on the subject, try to take it with like take baby steps at first. Like, don't. While I'm going to sit here and say, like, I jumped in headfirst into kink, please, not at a convention. Yeah. Do it in like small bursts, like in your community. Like if you go to a local dungeon, hopefully not right now, because just have fun there. And then if you decide to go to one of those conventions that are a lot bigger, a lot more people are, find the people that are learning like you, find the people that are new like you, and work up to trying to talk to that presenter.
Yeah. And like I hate to sound like the old person here, but like I would much rather you be safe than be satisfied. After you've entered the sphere, that is. So if there is enough doubt to make you think about it a couple of times, really put some thought into that, because like our human superpower, right, is that time is on our side. If you keep rolling those dice, you will eventually crit and you will find something, as long as you keep looking and searching for it. So don't be afraid to turn down things that look a little bit sus, because I know we're small, but there is still a lot of us out there, and you will find somebody who is not a gigantic risk that you can build confidence and get better perception about what is and isn't going to cripple you. You know, it may or may not ruin your fucking life if you do this wrong.
Yeah. Another thing that kind of like piggyback on that is like quality over quantity. You want to find the best way to enjoy your scene. You can do a paddling scene 1,700 times and only have 5 of those be like the like cream of the crop experiences. But you want to take your time in finding those, because those will actually stick in your head a lot more than those 1,700 that you just did. But also on that tangent, you can also have one scene that ended really badly because of
it only has to go wrong once,
and then you're done.
And another thing is like this is very a tougher thing for somebody in my position, because I want as much practice and experience tying as I can possibly get.
Yeah.
But I have to like, you know, temper my urge to practice and improve with what may or may not be dangerous for me and whoever I'm playing with.
And those are the things that we have to think about, because I know I expedited a lot of my like rope process because I had access to an entire dungeon, and I had access to an entire rope space where I could just sit and practice whenever the hell I wanted.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that luxury, and that's exactly what it is. It's a luxury, and we have to keep that in mind, because most of us that are in kink are just going to be regular people. Not everybody's going to get to the point of becoming a national or international presenter or performer. That hardly ever happens. You have to have really good clout. You have to also have a really good reputation, and you have to have really good skill to back all that shit up. Because most of us just play for the sake of like getting our rocks off, which is not a bad thing. Just do understand that the people that are up at the higher echelon do have a level of experience that we will never really have.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, let's talk about presenters, because presenters are both good and bad. We love them, but also we have to be mindful of who we're playing with, because just because they have a big name behind them doesn't mean they're the greatest person to tie with.
Yeah. That's what I was getting at earlier with the presenters can be hard to resist.
Yeah, they can. They really can. Especially because it's like, well, this is you rack in your brain, this is the once in a lifetime experience. Not really, because you can probably meet them at their local dungeon.
Yeah, they hang out somewhere.
And you can definitely go to those places. You can network, you can talk, you can vet, you can do all those same things that we were doing in the beginning, interpersonal relationships. Just understand that there may be a wait, there may be a time, there may be money involved that you have to pay, because taking a intensive with one of these people and then getting tied by one of them is a business transaction at this point.
And this is not just a bottom looking for presenters. It's also a if you are a top that wants to play with a like a model level person, like somebody who makes their living off of how they present themselves, that has the same dynamics and is harder to get.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of professional rope bottoms out there, a lot, and a lot of them are probably a lot more knowledgeable about rope than
you are.
Exactly. And that's gonna play a part. Like, these people know how to keep themselves safe.
Well, like, here's the thing that I think a lot of tops don't realize about bottoms, especially in the rope community. They have nothing to do in the middle of tying except pay attention to what you're doing. So thinking that they don't know what goes into this only really applies if they're like either extremely lazy or extremely into it.
And even if they're extremely into it, if they're hyper focused on the fact that they're getting off while being tied, they're going to notice something wrong at a certain point. Because sometimes we get a little bit too far into our head. But these professional rope bottoms they've trained themselves to focus on exactly what issues, because they've already had previous injuries. Yeah. Some of them had wrist drops. Some of them have had leg drops. Some of them had weird torsions that have happened to their body while doing these suspensions.
And this extends to all forms of any BDSM that has a top-bottom dynamic, right?
Professional doms have this, like dominatrixes and all that do also deal with this kind of stuff. And finding a safe presenter, it sounds easy on paper. It really, really does, because again, it comes into, if you have power.
Yeah, they have clout armor.
Yeah. But cloud armor, I like that one. I was thinking plot armor, but cloud armor is a lot more conducive to this conversation. And you run into these weird little like hiccups, like, okay, well, this person obviously has had to have been good for so long that they have never had anything bad happen to them, whether they're top or bottom. Well, do a little bit more research, like find out who they've been playing, because a lot of times there's a paper trail. You can find old conventions. If you go onto FetLife, look up like an individual, go through their stuff, and you can see timelines of all their stuff.
Yeah, pay attention to how they treat their other play partners. I was watching Cat Black had a BDSM kind of primer and story experience that she talked about on her channel, where she, part of her figuring out that a particular top was not for her was her noticing how his other bottoms were being treated. Like, his behavior was pristine when it came to, or pristine's not the right word, amicable,
almost prim and proper to a fault.
Like not failing is the better term. Like still, and like hadn't failed out of the program, but not the best of you.
Kept getting C minuses just to skirt on by with the 2.0.
That's the impression I got from the story.
Okay.
And I was like, this is it kind of dawned on me that like this story was the entire reason that she put that video up, was for like when you're vetting people, like know what to look for. Look for the things that it would be easy for them to forget about if they weren't paying attention. That would be signs that the things aren't quite right. Look at how they treat their family. Look at how they treat their regular group of people. All that stuff is important.
Looking at their interpersonal relationships will kind of, or even in their performances, will tell you. And I think one of the best things to kind of like go off of is there's this wonderful question that you always have to ask, what, as far as like playing with a person's concerned, especially someone that's higher level. Have you hurt someone? Have you harmed someone?
Yeah.
And usually most of us will say yes.
Yeah.
I will say yes. I've given somebody a rope burn. I've had to cut my rope before.
Yeah.
And being that honest with somebody is like, okay, well, that's good to know. If someone tells you no, that's a red flag, because it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So looking into those, looking that deep into somebody's like professional career is paramount.
Like, ask somebody if they've hurt somebody, then ask both of those questions separately. Have you hurt someone and have you harmed somebody?
Okay, those are two different questions.
They're very different, but most people conflate them. And if somebody can't see the difference between those two things, maybe worry about that. Okay, so we've kind of snuck into the advice corner. So I want to like, I'm a structuralist. I like structure with everything. It makes things easier. So I see kind of a 3-step process for vetting anybody. There's your first impression.
Yep.
Where like you feel whatever feelings you get with the first impression, and then you try to kind of like lean into how much of that is constructed and how much of that is genuine. I don't think a constructed persona is bad, but I do think it's something to be aware of. Then you do your research. That's your middle stage. You go and you grab all the information you can, and in this stage, you're just looking for data. You're not making any judgments yet. And the third stage is reflection. Like, you take all the information you have and you see what it means. This is also the stage where you like go around and talk to people, and if things aren't adding up, you're back at stage 2.
Or sometimes even back at stage 1.
Or, yeah, well, it's not a first impression anymore.
Well, maybe that first impression was curated. Those things. So one of the things that I like doing with people that are like trying to play with me or trying to vet me is like, okay, find 4 people. 2 people that really like me, 2 people that absolutely fucking hate me.
Right.
And get both opinions before you make yours.
Right.
And then just talk to me about it. If you even want to at that point. Like that is completely up to you. That has made it so much better for how I vet people as well.
Oh, yeah. Also, if somebody decides not to play with you, it is polite for them to refuse you formally. It is not required.
It's not.
Somebody is allowed to decide that they don't want to play with you, never fucking talk to you again. And if you've found out some vile shit about somebody, you don't even owe them a message before you block them.
Exactly.
If you feel like they're dangerous. I am far less concerned about somebody's feelings than I am about your safety. Yeah. So do that shit.
Yeah, don't worry about the whole ghosting thing, because again, these are people that you don't really know, and I'm assuming that you're not on a first name basis, so that way they can't really do anything.
Yeah, a little bit different dynamics if they're like in a group setting with you or something like that, but like maybe it's more contextualized by the situation we're in right now in in the DC time period and during Corona.
Yeah. The DC continuity. Yeah, there's that whole mix.
Yeah, so we know it's pretty toxic.
Well, and especially now that we have a lot more time to do a lot more investigative stuff, because before COVID, we were a little bit lax on all of that, because it was like we are all busy, we all have things to do. And vetting was just kind of one of those things that you put off to the wayside. Now that we have a lot more time, you can definitely do your research.
Yeah. Make sure your friends are vetting. If they get lazy, you being a little bit annoying may be the thing that saves their life. So do that. Do that shit.
Do your part.
You have time. You can send a text message. You can spend, you're rewatching The Office for the 44th fucking time anyway. Pull up your phone and look through their fat life. Like, I don't give a shit.
Watching The Office. No, thank you. I just pissed off somebody. But that's the general consensus on the whole vetting process, going from all the way down to all the way back up. And just do remember, this does also play to you. Like, if you have skeletons in your closet, someone will find it. Yeah. It's not that hard. It just takes a moment to like sift through everything. So
yeah, if you have fucked up and you are repentant, like actually repentant, not just putting on the appearance, you have to own those problems, and you have to understand that I don't know who this message is for. Anybody that I could be telling this does not want to hear it from me. I just realized.
This entire like conversation is like, we're probably talking to a wall right now.
Yeah.
Because most of the people that are probably just like, well, I don't need to do this. Like, I know I'm perfectly safe. Like, oh, then maybe this video is for you. Maybe this podcast is for you. Who knows? Honestly, if you can take any modicum amount of information from this and just keeping yourself safe, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
that's all I care about.
The goal of this podcast has always been to be a primer for people that are new to the scene and a celebration for people that have been here for a while. So you can either understand how you would teach new people or not be blindsided by people that are more experienced than you. Nothing is going to beat out experience, but having a little bit of a roadmap is definitely useful, and it makes it's harder to take advantage of you.
Yeah, and also do remember, be inquisitive, and just because someone has a lot of experience doesn't mean it was always good experience. And with that being said, I think we're at the end.
Yeah.
I think we've gone through everything. We
introduced ourselves.
Yeah, we did.
We did?
At the very beginning. I got that.
I wasn't there.
You were.
No.
Well, not mentally, maybe.
I don't know. That sounds fake to me.
Well, either way. So just so we get this done, this was Bound by the Scene, hosted by Tentacle Bound and Spirit Binder.
Yeah.
We're hopefully going to be finally back at a normal recording pace. And if they're not, well, we'll have interviews lined up. and we'll figure out exactly how to do those and who to get on. If you have somebody specific you'd like us to interview, whether it be me or Spirit, by all means, shoot us a message on either Pornhub or YouTube. I will be attempting...
We've got an email too, right?
Yeah, we do have an email. It's actually in our bio. Go and shoot that email there. I'm going to be working on getting us to Twitter, getting that up and running, so that way I'm not posting directly onto my active Twitter.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but I'm so lazy.
I want to put rope stuff on the Twitter.
That's perfectly fine. That's exactly what it's for. Because we're both ropey people, so I mean, it makes sense and it kind of has a moniker in our name. But other than that, Auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, Jeanette. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Peace.